This is fabulous. Anne-Marie, hello. Maurice, nice to see you. I've said hello to most people. Hello, Jesse Schmidt, and welcome to Oakland Rotary on Thursday. Oh my goodness. The third oldest Rotary Club in the world out of 42,000 clubs, as you know, in over 200 countries. Welcome. And usually I'm saying hello to the Zoomers, but I've already been saying hello to all of you. Hello, Kathleen. Good to see you. Welcome, and we really appreciate this quick pivot on a day where when I saw a video of business being boarded up in downtown, I just didn't want any of us to worry about our safety. And thank goodness everything is peaceful and calm, but we will enjoy each other on Zoom today. And so big virtual hug to everybody. Hello, Mr. Brown. Great to see you too. All right. So normally I would say check in on your social media so they know that you're doing this. I don't see any visitors, do I? Any visiting Rotarians other than our speaker and guests I don't see any guests. Any guests? Nope. All right. So with that, I would like to thank and welcome Christy Johnston to help us with today's thought for the day.
Thank you, Shannon. So today's thought for the day is an excerpt from Valerie Carr, A Sikh Prayer for America on November 9th, 2016. In our tears and agony, we hold our children close and confront the truth. The future is dark, but my faith dares me to ask, what if this darkness is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? What if our America is not dead, but a country still waiting to be born? What if the story of America is one long labor? What if all the mothers who came before us, who survived genocide and occupation, slavery and Jim Crow, racism and xenophobia and Islamophobia, political oppression and sexual assault, are standing behind us now, whispering in our ear, "You are brave"?
Thank you.
One more sentence. What if this is our great contraction before we birth a new future? Remember the wisdom of the midwife. Breathe, she says, then push. Now it is time to breathe, but soon it will be time to push. So tonight we will breathe, and tomorrow we will labor. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. So I want everybody to breathe. Really breathe and be grateful, and be grateful that we have this organization, these friendships together to be with each other and to do good work in the community, because nothing has changed from yesterday or the day before. We still have much work to do. And Christy, that was very meaningful. Thank you. I wanted to take a moment to welcome one of our most cherished members, Dr. Tom Love, who's on the call today. Thank you, Tom, for joining us. And Tom has been in the club, believe it or not, longer, I don't know, longer than you, Jack, or who's been in the club longer?
He has me beat.
He has you beat. But I've had the great pleasure of traveling with Tom Love over many countries in Central America, and he's done unbelievable work in this world and with Rotary and with his own organizations, and super grateful for all the work that you're doing. So welcome back, Tom. Nice to see you. Okay. All right, Christy. So I would like us to take a few minutes. We're going to run off into, can we do this? Oh, you're okay with this, Peter, to have a 4 or 5 minutes in a breakout room?
We're good. I'm all set.
Okay. So we're going to just shush you off into a room with another person on the call, just randomly, another person or two. And you'll need to click on your screen, right, to say going to the room. Is that right, Peter?
Correct. I'm assigning randomly, so you'll have to accept to be moved into a breakout room.
And all this is for us to breathe together. And so you have an opportunity to meet somebody new and just, I was going to give you a prompt. The prompt was really going to be, let's share something optimistic or something you're hoping to do during the holidays or for next year, something that you're looking forward to doing. So let's share some optimism and take a breath and get a little bit beyond the handshake. So off you go into your breakout rooms, and you'll have
How long, Shannon?
about 4 minutes of just hanging out
4 minutes.
and visiting.
Thank you. Here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Take the first left onto Rockaway Avenue. At the next light, turn right. At the left, turn right up to Ashford. First left on Central Left. It turn right onto Falls Boulevard.
I need to get a cup of coffee. And that's chicken.
The next stop sign, turn right.
Not sure what happened, Barbara, but I goofed.
Okie doke. All righty. How was that? Everybody's coming back. All right. Everybody's coming back. Great. Welcome back. How was that? Did people like doing that? I got some good, optimistic, lovely things happening. I want to know who Tom got to talk to. All right.
I got lucky. Tom was in my group with Barbara Beery.
Oh my goodness, lucky ducks.
Yeah.
Doesn't get much better than that. Okay. So I wanted everybody to please mark their calendars, and in the chat, we'd like to capture anybody and everyone that has gone to the most
At the
wonderful.
stop sign,
What's that?
to turn right on Boulevard.
Oh,
Then
somebody's
turn
got
left
their
on Central Avenue.
somebody is moving on Central Avenue with their.
Ramona, mute yourself.
Please mute. So if you can put your name down.
I'll have to figure out how.
Uh-oh. If you can put in the chat, if you went to Berkeley, I just put myself in the chat. We're trying to find out all the Cal grads, and if you were also so lucky to go to Stanford, you can put your name in the chat as well. We're trying to collect the big game aficionados. Mark your calendar for November 21st because we are going to have the Cal band at the meeting. Don't want to miss November 21st, one of the best days of the year. Tom Love's been through a lot of Cal bands with us. So please do that. All right. Now, I don't have my little chimes, but I think Peter has a chime slide because we are going to have Karen Friedman introduce a brand new member to our Rotary Club. And
is she here?
I hope so.
She is.
Ah, there she is.
Awesome. Okay, so there's a
Okay.
chime, and we're introducing a new. We've been trying to get you in the ballroom for so long, and now we got you on Zoom. I'm sorry, but we'll look forward to seeing you in live person soon. So Karen, take it away.
Okay. So I'm thrilled to be able to introduce our newest member of Oakland number 3, Tammeil Gilkerson, who is Chancellor of the Peralta Community College District. I met Tammeil when Ed McFarland and I had a cockamamie idea to partner with Peralta on creating a food pantry. And Tammeil was so welcoming and so enthusiastic. And I mean, she was just great. And that was the very beginning of our partnership with Lainey, because since that time, we've done lots and lots of stuff. So Tammeil grew up in Hayward as one of 7 children. 5 were adopted by her parents, including her. In fact, Tammeil was born in Korea. She and her siblings reflected the diversity of the Bay Area, African American, Latino, white, and Asian. And so from a young age, she was instilled with a deep respect and appreciation for diversity. And social justice has become her passion throughout her life. She was the first in her family to attend college, getting a bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley.
Yay!
Since then, she's received a master's degree and a doctorate. So in doing a little research about Tammeil, I came across a vision for Peralta, and I wanted to share it with everybody on the call. She's passionate about building learner-centered institutions that reflect students' lived experiences, provide hope, and practice love. I think that's just lovely. So now, 2 facts about Tammeil. Tammeil has 2 children, a boy and a girl, and her son's name is Justice, and her daughter's name is Malia, which is Hawaiian for peace. So she has peace and justice in her family. Second fact, when she was a teenager, her parents started to take in foster youth. To date, Mr. and Mrs. Gilkerson have fostered 169 children. They were honored by ABC 7 News in 2009 when they took in their 100th child. So please join me in welcoming Tammeil as our newest member of the Oakland Rotary Club.
What? Oh my goodness. So thank you. So you get a standing ovation in the ballroom, so we'll have to reenact that. We don't give many standing ovations, so congratulations on joining us. We'll make sure you get your goodie bag, which will have a book about our 100 years of our history. It'll have your 4-way test and your roster with your 250 new friends. And we just really look forward to being part of your life and having Rotary be a part of yours. So welcome aboard. And then, so what's going to happen? And you can say hello if you want to say hello.
Okay. Well, first of all, just thank you. And thank you, Karen, for doing the introduction. And I just want to say I'm pleased to be back. So many of you I've worked with before because I used to be a member, right? But I left from the presidency of Laney to go down to San Jose to be the president down there. And so I was spending my time in the Silicon Valley. But I'm really thrilled to be back and back to my Rotary love. And so really appreciate the warm welcome back. So thanks.
Wonderful. And yeah, I forgot that you have been here before. And so welcome, welcome. Lots ahead of us. And thank you, Karen, for that. So with that, some of the Rotary love and things that we like to do, we did over the weekend, and we had a wonderful time with Joel Parrott and his environmental committee. So Joel, you want to tell us what happened?
It was November 2nd. We had clearly, from the picture, we had beautiful weather. And we did a tree planting partnership with the Oakland Park and Rec Foundation. We had 10 Rotarians participate. We had one Interact student, 4 kids from college prep, 2 employees from the Park and Rec Foundation. We planted 18 trees in Martin Luther King Shoreline Park. And it was part of the urban forestry plan for Oakland. And so we're supporting that park, and we're able to, we had a great time. Special shout out to everybody that showed up, but also the entertainment committee for bringing the snacks and making it so much fun. It was fun and a job well done. Thank you, everybody. And then we will have our next, we will have another planting of trees in the spring around Earth Day. In that case, the Environment Committee is going to partner with the Community Services Committee to do another tree planting. So thank you to everybody. And I think it was just a great partnership to be with the Park and Rec Foundation, who really appreciated Rotary's assistance.
Great. Thank you, Joel. Bravo. Good job. And it was fun, and it was a gorgeous day. And it was my first tree planting. And I do want to compliment the committee who partnered with our giving, and they bought a water truck for this for the park regional park, because part of tree planting is being able to water them. And it was really a burden on the staff to bucket water all these trees that we've been planting. And so now they have a wonderful truck that has a beautiful sign on it, donated by Oakland Rotary. So good job, Rotary. All right, with that, we are going to move on to a kickoff for our Rotary Foundation, Ms. Roos. Oh, you're on mute. Nope. Nope, can't hear you.
I've asked her to unmute.
Can't hear you.
There she is.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. One precious Rotary minute down. I'm so sorry. I'm so pleased to talk to such a great group of Rotarians today about my love of Rotary, and hopefully your love of Rotary too. So please join me as we start to have the November focus on fundraising for the Rotary Foundation. This is the global arm of the Rotary that goes out and does work. We do a lot of work in our community, and we also do work in the world. So to me, I always like to back up and make sure that Rotarians of all tenures are on the same page. So what or who is Rotary International? Why are we doing this? Rotary is a service club for business people. I don't know why people join for different reasons. Some people come for the community or the business connections. We certainly develop lifelong friendships, and we do that by doing work together. We all have a unique Rotary journey. Some people jump all in with 2 feet in the beginning. Some people are a little busier. Some people need to take a break. We always welcome people back. The need is ever present, and working together shares the load and makes the work a little bit lighter. because when we do the Rotary campaign, we talk about what I call the three. The Rotary Foundation Campaign Month is all about financial giving, but I always want to talk about what I think of the three pillars of giving. The first is time. So many people in this club give so generously of their time, and it makes such a big difference to the work we do to work together. The second is talent. So many people bring so many skills and so many experiences, and by giving time and talent, we help this work move forward. This month, it's all about treasure. So the Rotary campaign is about fundraising for our club. Our club's fundraising for Rotary International, the work we do globally to make the world a little better place. So what is the Rotary Foundation? The Rotary Foundation is really it's the nonprofit arm of Rotary International. It was formed by Arch Clump. And so as Rotary came together over 100 years ago to do good work in the community, they realized that they need to have an arm to extend the work even further. So the foundation allows Rotarians to advance understanding, goodwill, and peace throughout improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. The foundation does so much good work in the world and has so many ways to contribute. If you are someone who says, I'd like to learn more, there's a couple ways to do that. One is I'd love to have a conversation with you about different ways to give, especially giving giving from a will or a trust. I'd also love to talk to people about what the Rotary Foundation is and how we give by, we're having a get together on next Monday at my house, and there's information on that in an email that just went out at the beginning of the meeting. Rotary has several areas of focus, and you can designate your gift towards one of those areas of focus. I will tell you that any one of these areas of focus makes the world a little bit better for everyone in the community we serve.
Hey, Ruth, are you sharing your slides? Because we're not seeing any.
Oh, well, that's nice to know now. Yes, I am.
We're not seeing anything, or I'm not.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Peter. Okay. I'm so sorry. They're not. I have a malfunction. So I'm just going to continue so we can finish and keep the meeting going timely.
Okay.
And then I'm happy to pass this out. The campaign that we're doing right now is focusing on giving to our annual campaign. The annual fund within the Rotary International, what that fund does is it provides funding for our local and international projects, and it has a way of coming back through our district to allow us to make grants in the future through district designated funds. So there's a bit about, what is the Rotary Foundation and what is Rotary and what is it for you? My question is, what's your why? Why do I give? Why does it feel good? Why do I want to be involved? And as you dig deep and look for your why, when you get your answer, we'd love to, understand it better as it pertains to the foundation. So this year's campaign is a campaign of clicks and calls. And that means you'll get emails that give you information about the campaign. You will also get phone calls from some of the members of our campaign committee. So you'll get instructions on how to make donations over email. We look forward to making it another great year. Typically, we have a donation. Our goal is $100,000 to give, and we've had many years of generous donors stepping up early, encouraging people to match the donation. President Seth started this in his year with the $50,000 President's Challenge, and that year we gave a record $200,000 The last couple of years, we've given about $150,000, thanks in part to several generous Rotarians. And we hope to continue and meet last year's expectations. So, as a good friend of mine once says, don't give until it hurts, give until it feels good. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Ruth. Big year. The other news about the foundation is that we do get rewarded for our generosity and we get money back to spend. And this year we're spending it on some international work, but also on some local projects. So we'll tell you more about that over the month. So next I'd like to talk about, first of all, I saw a bell ringer for our new member. So thank you, Joe. Got a bell ringer for Ms. Gilkerson coming back. I would also like to ring the bell for Tom Love's attendance today. So I'm super excited that Tom is here, and I definitely am ringing the bell for Tom to be here. So if there are any other bell ringers, you can certainly put them in the chat and celebrate with us. Next, I want to just tell you some other things that are happening before we start with our speaker, which is a calendar of events. What's happening tomorrow? Where are we going, Robert? We're going to the symphony tomorrow. We are
going to the symphony.
Hooray!
The Oakland Symphony. If you don't have tickets, we'll get tickets by calling the symphony and tell them that you're from the Rotary, and they will give you a 10% discount.
Great. So we do have a Rotary code, that discount code, that if it's not working online right now, we can call them. And I'm going to go and hopefully see a bunch of other people at the Oakland Symphony. On the 14th, I'd like to have drinks with the president, but I don't know where yet. So let's collaborate. Anybody have some good local ideas to have drinks with the president coming up on November 14th? That'll be an all Rotary day. We've got a bike ride that's a TBD coming up in November, but please, please, please save the date for December 5th, because that's a fantastic holiday party at Fred Morse's house. Thank you, Fred, again and again. You can buy your tickets on Eventbrite for that event. And then we have some other holiday cheer cookie exchange coming up. And volunteering at St. Vincent de Paul is going to be a big day on December 14th. And we're going to put that on Eventbrite for registration as well. So we will send an email out to everybody with this list and other things that need to be added. Just let me know, or let me and Jesse know. So with that, it is time to introduce our speaker. And I do want to say thank you to the 66 people who have joined us today. That's 3 times the size of most Rotary clubs, and it's a third the size of ours. So it's great to have everybody on. Again, I'm sorry we're not in person, but we will keep growing this number. So Barbara Berry, please, if you would introduce our esteemed speaker.
My pleasure. Ruth, speaking of time, talent, and treasure with teamwork, I'm happy to introduce you to Dr. Richard Godfrey. Maybe you've heard him speak to our district. Maybe you've read his article in the Rotary magazine of September 2023. Maybe you've even read his book about African queens. That's not only about his beekeeping experiences, but also about past President Obama's grandmother. He's a retired oncology surgeon and chief of surgery at Kaiser in Hayward and Fremont. After he retired, he joined the board of PINC, which stands for Prevention International of Cervical Cancer. And he started working all over the world, including Kenya, Guatemala, and Belize before I met him. He's a Niles Fremont Rotarian, and he's the doctor I've been working with to help eliminate cervical cancer by the HPV projects that you've heard me talk about in Nepal and Bolivia, and now in Baja California, Norte and Sur, Mexico. So I will let him tell you more himself.
Welcome, Richard.
Oh, thank you all. And, Barbara, thank you. I feel more esteemed than ever. And I want to share with you that for me, it's very special to speak with the Oakland Rotary for a number of reasons, but one of them is I'm really an Okie, not in the Will Rogers sense, but that I used to be an ambulance driver in Oakland. I was also a taxi driver in Oakland. The ambulance was called Acme Ambulance. I don't think they're around anymore. It wasn't a big, highly paying job. It was $2.75 an hour. So we weren't trained all that well, needless to say. But that started my beginnings in medicine. But in particular, I do want to try to travel through a lot of information. And if I talk too fast, I apologize, but I do want to leave some room for questions. Peter, I finally got my computer to work, so if you want, I could try to share, or you want to just advance yourself. It might be simpler if you advance. Peter?
It's your call. Why don't you try it? If you want to share, you said you're used to it.
Okay, let me see if I can.
I can tell you what, I've got.
In the interest of time, why don't you go ahead, Peter? And so what I'm going to be speaking towards is, I think, something maybe we all can feel hopeful and positive. And I truly appreciated the words from Christy Johnson. They were very, very strong and passionate, and I thought they were very beautifully spoken. So we have this opportunity now to do things with International Rotary. And why don't we go ahead to the next slide? And I'm sure you've heard this quote before, but Paul Harris, really did believe in action. And next slide. I've always loved this picture of him on a stamp from Brazil, because you notice he's actually smiling. It's almost a smirk. And I agree. I know from my own experience, we can change one world, one life at a time, and often it's our own life. Why does he have that smile? Well, not everybody knows that Paul Harris was expelled from secondary school and, went on to college in Vermont, got expelled again from college. He was known as a prankster, and I think he liked to have fun. And I know that I've had my adventures in life, but I also love to have fun. And one of the most fun things I've ever done are some of the adventures that we have with International Rotary. I've got to single out a few people from your club because I've had a lot of fun with them. Barbara Berry and Deep Rajamandari are some of the most fun people in the world to work with. And so is Peter Sherris. And Peter and I have worked together, gosh, more years than either of us can want to remember right off, but we worked in Kenya. And I'm going to show some slides going towards that work. But I also know that this is a club that believes in action, and you're quite well known for the many projects that you do. Now, here's a guy you may or may not have heard over the years, and Richard King was very special to Niles Rotary. And you can read for yourselves, but we heal the sick, we save lives, we bring hope, we bring peace. That's our thrust, and in doing so, we become a changed person. Next slide. So Rotary did change my life, but another thing I learned from Richard King was just some basic things. I'm sure you all know them, but they're worth thinking about as we think about this project of cervical cancer. Is it reachable? Does it make us reach? It definitely does. Do we have a plan? We're going to talk towards that. Are we working the plan? We'll talk towards that. And I want to, particularly recognize Barbara Beery and Deep Rajandari, because they're the ones that have done more than anybody I know to make this happen in Nepal and other countries. Next slide. So what's the problem? And you've probably heard this before. I want to go over basic biology, but first of all, the problem, every minute and a half, a woman dies of cervical cancer. And about 30% of oropharyngeal cancers have HPV involvement. And the reality is we don't have enough screening programs. We don't have yet enough vaccines, and yet it's a preventable disease. Next slide. So what's the goal? What's the solution? Well, the WHO has looked at this in depth. they put out, and we'll come to that next. But the bottom line is vaccination and screening. And with a plan that we can reach this goal, we'll do all the things that are needed. Next slide. So just, if you haven't seen this before, just a reminder, WHO came out in 2018. They've had a secondary target set that was updated, I believe, in 2022. But in essence, the goal should be by 2030, and 90% of girls can be vaccinated by age 15. 70% of women, the goal is to screen them. Those years are not really what we shoot for. We're looking for ages 30 to 60, in some cases 25 to 65, but mostly 30 to 60. Why that age? Because they're the ones that are most at risk and where we can make the biggest difference. And certainly any woman that gets biopsied and identified with cervical cancer should be offered treatment. Next slide. So, everyone here knows, maybe even with better experience than I do, but, International Rotary took on Polio Plus some time ago. And, think about what it took to get to that vaccine for polio, almost, something like 41 years. Today, when we got the COVID vaccine, it took basically 8 months. So things have changed. Technology moves extremely fast. But we at one time had, many of us can remember the days when polio was rampant through the United States and throughout the world. Next slide, Peter, if you're still there. Yeah, so, if you go back to 2022 on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that we were somewhere around 68 cases of circulating, vaccine-derived cases. Unfortunately, that number has been going up. So we're not done with polio by any means. And maybe we won't be for decades and decades, but we're going to get there at some point. And so by all means, I'm a supporter of Polio Plus, and I know we have a big event coming up to try to increase our donations and funding for polio, but I'm here to talk about cervical cancer. Next slide. And why is cervical cancer as important, or potentially in its own way important? The numbers I mentioned earlier, they actually have grown to 360,000 women. And so that's, every minute and a half, a woman dies from this cancer, almost primarily in low-income countries, and yet it's preventable. Next slide. Some of you may have noted this, but Gates, who had such an important role in dealing with polio, is talking with Prime Minister Modi about work that could be done with vaccine. And I think it's worth noting that Modi recently came out offering 40 million vaccines to the Indo-Pacific area. And India, I think, will probably be the source of affordable vaccines, probably the monovalent vaccine that will allow us to take this to the next level. Next slide. Okay, so all the ladies, I didn't tell you, but there's a test in this presentation. I'm sorry to make this so difficult, and none of the ladies can say anything, but any of the men, just raise your hand this is not a cherry donut, raise your hand if you see what we're looking at. Correct, it is in fact the cervix. And next slide. How about this one? Anybody think that this is the cervical cancer virus? Not really. This is polio, and it looks pretty ugly. Next slide. And the HPV virus, it's really more doesn't look as threatening, but it's certainly, as I mentioned, polio by and large is not causing deaths. It's causing horrible paralysis, but this little virus causes death for the numbers that I've already mentioned. Next slide. And, just by way of anatomy, why is the cervix, it's a small organ, but it's a critical organ. If you think about it, it's essential for keeping the uterus safe from any bacterial infections or other invasions of pathologic variants. And at the same time, the cervix has the ability to relax. It's a muscle, so it can relax when it's time for childbirth. Not had the experience myself, but I know it's an incredible process to go through. And without the cervix, it's not going to happen. Next slide. But things can go wrong. So this is, a quick review of what happens in the development of cervical cancer. And if you start on the left-hand side, you see the normal cervix. When you're doing an exam, we'll talk a little bit about VIA, but when you do the exam, you may get lucky, not necessarily lucky, but you can have an impact if you find the infected cervix at an early stage or even at the precancer stage, where you can pretty much have a very good chance to eliminate the disease at that point. Once it gets over to the far right, where you see the cancer manifesting in an ugly fashion, at this point, you have got to get a biopsy. You've got to prove pathologically that it's cervical cancer. But for the most part, women in lower income countries are presenting with stage 3 and stage 4 disease. And it's bad news. If you look down below on this slide, you'll see the time span from infection to cancer is 10 to 30 years. And that's a critical thing to remember. Next slide. Because if it's had that time period and if it does develop to cancer, and we unfortunately see patients in their early 20s on occasion with cervical cancer, but if it gets to stage 4, it's really bad news. It's traveling first to the lymph nodes, but it finds its way to many different parts of the body. The other doctors in this group, and Peter and Dr. Love, stage 4 disease is devastating. It happens over a slow, agonizing period of time. Next slide. But pretty much these women, and Peter, I'm hoping we can activate this PowerPoint. There's a video here. Can you see if you can activate it on yours? May not be possible. If not, I could try to come back later. Well, I'll share with you what happens in that slide, and it takes place in Kenya, where Peter and I have worked for a long time at the Matibabu Hospital, and the gynecologist by the name of Alexis is talking about her experience seeing a patient who's presenting with advanced cervical cancer. She is a widow. She has a very bad outlook. She has 5 children. And this doctor in the slide, maybe we're going to, here we are. This is Alexis.
Different from what you encounter as practicing in the US on a daily basis. On the second day here, one of the patients that we screened, we were diagnosing with cervical cancer. She was a young woman, 32, and she had never been screened before. And it was quite obvious on her exam that she had very invasive advanced disease. So it's not something that we were able to treat here. We were able to obtain biopsies and set her up with follow-up care so that she can be treated to the best that she can within the setting that she is. But it is utterly heartbreaking to see that. This is a young woman who's never had the opportunity to be screened, and she's a widow with 5 children. Her outcome is going to be devastating, and it's heartbreaking to know that it's too late. And I kept thinking about her. and your little children. We're going to be orphans. And this could have all been prevented. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Rich.
I don't know how to share more with anyone more profoundly than what she was sharing with us there. But we see a lot of advanced disease. And, again, this is a disease, if you can get there early, and as you look at this slide, you see where the HP infection, most of the, it's a sexually transmitted virus for the most part. So it usually begins anywhere, depending on what country, what area, ages 13 till 21, but the time to manage it, obviously, ideally, would be vaccination. If it's precancer, it may take until age 30, and it may become a frank cancer age 35 or anywhere along there. So we need primary prevention, secondary prevention, tertiary prevention. Primary, of course, is vaccination. So that's just, very briefly, a little biology. Next slide. And this is to me, a impressive slide, because what it's showing you, if you can come back, Peter, is India and what's happening in the reason that it's so expanded on this map of the world is because of the size of the population in India, which is over 1 billion, and therefore there are more women that will die of cervical cancer in this country than anywhere else. Obviously, Africa, the incidence is much higher, as it is in Latin America, highest of all in Africa. But in India, it's a big, big problem. And let's go to the next slide. Go ahead. So what do we do? Here is the part that I love to talk about. Now, Amphire is a machine that is made in Sunnyvale. You're looking at a machine that was the original model. It's larger and heavier. It weighed a couple 100 pounds, very hard to transport, but very effective. And the bottom line is it could detect all the virus strains that you can see in the top line there. And bottom line, I'm just going to shorten this to say, this methodology of testing DNA is simple, it's fast, it's inexpensive, and it's more accurate than the Pap smear. Next slide. So how's it work? Well, first of all, oh, by the way, it also can test for any of the other sexually transmitted diseases. It can test for COVID. It can test even for Alzheimer's disease, early biologic manifestations through some of the genetic aspects of Alzheimer's. So that's what the old machine looks like. The technology is changing fast. The new machine that Barbara and I and Deep have worked with fits in your backpack. Most of us can get on any plane and fly into the country. And I don't want to call us mules, but in fact, we're pretty good at transporting the machine in with minimal cost of customs. Next slide. And so how do you do this? Well, for the most part, you go to the communities where you want to do the testing. You get a vaginal swab, that goes into a test tube. That test tube gets transported to where the machine is, and then we can do upwards of 100 tests in 1 hour, up to 800 in a day. So it's actually quite fast. And I often forget to mention the real special brilliance of this machine is that if patients are negative, they're good. They don't have to come to the hospital. So it's called self-testing, and it saves about 80% of the work of screening patients in a community. That's huge when you think about the manpower that it requires to bring every one of those patients to the hospital. Now you don't need to do that for 80%. You've really, really simplified and made possible large-scale screening. Next slide. So if they do need screening, then they got to come to the hospital. That's visual identification with acetic acid. You just need 5% vinegar. Go ahead, hit a button there, Peter. And so it's simple, easy to learn. Most midwives and most nurses can learn this easily. Next slide. And so we get the results because you're looking right there and you can treat at the same time. So we will integrate this into primary care health systems. Next slide. And that's what we've done with PINC. PINC stands for Prevention International Cervical Cancer. Been around for 20 years, started by Kay Taylor from Oakland, who is a gynecologist. I guess she worked at the Oakland Kaiser. It now is based out of, well, people come from all over the world to work with PINC. Melissa Mescal is executive director. She's located in Texas, but PINC is working throughout these different areas of the world now, Central America, Africa, India, all over the place. Next slide. And what do we do? Well, the goal of PINC and our Rotary groups too is train the trainer. But remember, we talked about doing VIA, this visual identification. The patient has to have a pelvic exam. If she's seen, we paint with the acetic acid. If we see the early changes of precancer or what we call dyslexia, we can treat it. And this is my favorite part. How long does it take to treat a patient with early cancer? Just remember this, 20 seconds. This little device is carried in a small briefcase. It's battery powered. You can see where it works by raising the temperature right on the edge of the cervix to 100 degrees centigrade, and it destroys the cancer. Obviously, is it going to work every time? Well, these patients will follow on a 6-month basis. We'll make sure that they are taken care of over the long term. But this was developed by a guy over in Utah, and there's a lot going on with this little device. I won't go into too many of the technical details, but this was a huge advance. Next slide.
2 minutes, Rich.
Oh, okay. Move right along. So we've done it in Guatemala. We published our results. Next slide. We did in 6 months what it took us 2 years to do without the Amphire. Next slide. I'm just talking about all the, the Niles Rotary people, so forget about them. Let's get to Oakland. Keep going. Here we go. Here's Oakland. We now have a screening unit in the Mati Babu Hospital. Peter can tell you more about this. Peter was a big contributor to making this happen. We started it up about 8 months ago. Next slide. We've worked over in Kenya a long time, brought them a container that brought in medical gear. Next slide. And this is what the lab looks like. Looks pretty simple. That's Joffrey. He's the guy that's running all this. Next slide. I wish if you had time, you would look at this. We're not going to play this, but this is a documentary from our work in Africa. Next slide. And Nepal. Now, I could spend 20 minutes on Nepal, but I just want to single out Deep Raj Bhandari and Barbara Beery. We've been working in Nepal now for about a year. We've already screened 1,000 patients, and we're going back pretty soon. Next slide. Remember, I said we always have fun. There's Barbara and Deep and myself. We're up into the Himalayas. You won't believe this. Next slide. But we actually were able to summit Mount Everest. Not everybody gets to do that, but we did it in 1 hour. We flew in a plane, and I consider that summiting. Next slide. So where else? Bolivia. Everybody said Bolivia could never be done, but by and large, we've got 5 clubs, including Oakland. Thank you, Oakland. The 5 clubs have just gotten their global grant approved. So we will be working for the next 3 years in Bolivia, which has the highest rate of cervical cancer in Latin America. And we're going to make a difference. Next slide. This is our more current project. I was just down there with Barbara, who has really put a lot of time and effort into writing grants and making this happen. She also did about I run a 20-hour drive throughout Baja. So we're just getting started, but it's a very exciting project. You're all invited at some time in the future if you want to do a relatively shorter travel to an international project. And this is our cancer clinic where we're working. Next slide. And again, we have fun. So you see me, come on down. You can drive your own fire truck or your ambulance. We usually have some pretty good barbecues and paellas and things of that type. So help us to start the work down there. And the final slide.
How the toast was.
And I can't believe I've talked more than 20 minutes, but I'm sure I have. So I just want to say there's a lot of work ahead. I really hope that this is all collaborative. All of our groups coming together is what's going to make this happen. And, I've only mentioned a few of the things that are happening overall throughout the all of Rotary throughout the planet, really. And I think a lot more is going to happen in the coming years. Okay, how many Rotary clubs? Well, every time we go to start a new project, we always include Rotary. So the ones I'm involved with have 5 clubs that are absolutely making this work within their own area. Remember, our goal is to train the trainers. So we don't there's no medical tourism here. This is basically getting a country started, and we serve as a catalyst, but they take over. And the Rotary clubs have been absolutely huge in making it happen. In each one of these countries where I've worked, I think, Deep could speak to that too. Other questions? And while we're waiting for questions, let me add a few things. I just want to say, how important it is going ahead that I know, that you've done a lot of work in Guatemala, water projects. Peter's shared with me some of the things you've done, and that's probably 2 or 3 20-minute sessions just to look at a few of them. So all of them are critical. But for me, the joy is being part of Rotary, being part of an international effort where I get to travel and work with the different people as well as the different Rotary clubs. So I just want to say what a wonderful chance it is for me to share this information with you. And please take my email or contact me if you do have any questions, and I'm more than happy to get back to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. We're actually, there's another couple of questions. We're about to lose Christy, who's going to announce our speaker, who's the police chief for next week, but she's going to put his introduction in the chat. So with that, we can come back to say, one of the questions on the screen was, how much does it cost to purchase the screening setup, Richard?
Yeah, altogether, we're in the $30,000 range. That includes the reagents. The most expensive part of this work are the reagents because it's about $6 per patient. So 1,000 patients is going to be $6,000. And obviously, you want to do a lot more than 1,000 patients. We'd like to get into the 100,000 range, which would be, now we're talking a major scale-up project for Rotary, which Egypt did. Egypt got $2 million. And we'll see what happens in the coming years in some of these other countries.
Great. Great. We've got some bell ringers that we're very appreciative of. Karen's ringing the bell again for our new member, and Joe for Rich being here. And so we appreciate those $100 donations to the Oakland Rotary Endowment. We are at 1:30, so make sure you bus your tables, everyone. No, I'm kidding. And I want to thank Richard. Our speaker's gift is a donation to Polio Plus in your honor. We appreciate you being an Oaklander at heart and doing this great work around the world and working so hard with our dedicated Rotarians, Barbara and Deep. Congratulations on all, and Karen, everybody that's doing all this amazing work. This is a great kickoff to our Rotary Foundation month. So you'll be hearing more about work we're doing at home and around the world and how your donations really get to work. In the chat, we have next week's speaker is the Oakland Police Chief, Floyd Mitchell. Chief Floyd Mitchell was just returned from a 4-week requalification course so that he can wear his OPD uniform proudly. Please join us next week as he helps to bring down the crime rate. Homicide is down in Oakland by 33% from this time last year, but that is not zero. So we'll look forward to hearing from Chief Mitchell. Anything else for the good? I do also want to acknowledge Veterans Day. I meant to do this earlier, and Veterans Day is it's changed over the last 35 years since I joined Rotary. When I joined Rotary, there were dozens of veterans in the room, and now we still have a few. So if you have served our country, I want to honor you and thank you, and keep an eye out for our veterans in our club, and let's always take the time to appreciate them. So thank you, everybody, for helping, and this meeting is adjourned. Did I forget anything? Probably. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Tom Love.
Yeah, a couple more bell ringers.
And we got some more bell ringers. Good enough. And thank you, Tom. It's great to see you. And we'll take, we have this on recording, so we will collect your bell ringers on the chat if you have put them there. Thank you so much.
I'm one of your vets.
And Tom Love, you are one of our vets. I actually chatted somebody and I go, is Tom Love a vet? I go, I think he is. So Tom, thank you for your service. I remember everybody standing up and some men wearing their uniforms 20, 30 years ago at the club meeting. And since my father he just didn't serve, he just missed it. So I didn't have veterans in my life until I joined Rotary. And the fact that I learned about serving this country because of being a Rotarian really, really transformed my appreciation and my understanding of what it takes to keep this country free. So I really am honored. Thank you, Tom. All righty, y'all. Have a wonderful day. And we'll hope to see you at the symphony if you can come. And if not, we'll see you back in the ballroom next week with a great speaker. Police Chief Mitchell, please come. Invite your friends.
Tonight at Laney.
And Laney, we're going to be, tonight we're going to be at Laney listening to Christy. Christy's going to be presenting, and there's an event tonight at Laney. And I don't know that made it on our deck, but if you need to know where that is, send a note to me or Tom or Jesse. But we're going to go, Rudy has invited us down to Laney to hear about
But it's the opening of their entrepreneurship center.
Their
entrepreneurship at Laney
College Center, which will give us
deal.
opportunities to be entrepreneurship mentors, perhaps, to some of our next generation of Oaklanders. So that's going to be fun. So I'm going to run down there and hang out there too. And anybody wants to go to cocktails at Ruth's on 11/11 at her house, it's 4 o'clock. So we're going to send out a little grid of all these good things that we can do to gather together and to share our Rotary experience. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.